community of multidisciplinary designers and creative professionals from various tribes of India. For the past 3 years, we have been gathering here regularly, interacting with domain experts, learning from them, and exploring ways to use art, design, and technology for the benefit of our communities. In fact, Tribal Design Forum has curated some of the finest works from the artists, designers, and other creative professionals who have previously spoken on our
Uh,
platform. We are
uh,
currently organizing a month-long online festival showcasing
uh,
and celebrating contemporary tribal imagination from the 1st to the 31st of August, every evening at 7:30 p.m. and every afternoon on weekends at 2:30 p.m. More details about this festival can be found at www.tribaldesignforum.com. These sessions were also live streamed on our YouTube channel. That said, continuing on our quest to showcase and appreciate the brilliant works of artists, designers, and creative professionals from the tribal communities, we have here today to delve into the journey of Theja. Theja is a young Angami filmmaker and will deliver his unique perspective on ambition in film and its significance for the communities in his region. In his talk, Theja will explore how ambition is perceived and manifested among the Konyak people, highlighting the cultural nuances and values that shape this concept. He will share his personal understanding of ambition drives him to create films that resonate with his community's experiences and aspirations. Teja will discuss how he depicts ambition in his films using storytelling to convey the challenges, dreams, and resilience of the people in his region through clips and insights into his filmmaking process, and will illustrate how his work not only reflect the collective ambition of his community but also serves as a mean to inspire and provoke thought. The presentation will conclude with a 30-minute Q&A session, allowing the audience to engage with Rio on the themes of ambition, cultural identity, and the role of filmmaking in documenting and shaping societal attitudes. Please feel free to put your questions or comments in the chat while the presentation is going on. Due to paucity of time, we shall be taking 5 questions that appear in the chat box. So keep your questions ready to make the session an interactive one. So with this, let's delve into the cinematic world of Theja. Theja, we welcome you on behalf of Tribal Design Forum.
Hello, everybody. Hi, so my name is Teja Rio, and I am a writer and director from Nagaland. So I just recently graduated from film school, and I've made a bunch of short films that were very lucky to make, to be successful at the film festival circuit, and I'm yet to make a feature film. So to think that anyone would be interested in having to hear what I have to say is actually quite baffling to me, but here we are. So thank you all for joining in. And so, like Shweta has already mentioned, I am from the Angami tribe. The Angami tribe is one of the major indigenous tribes of Nagaland and predominantly inhabiting the Kohima district. And I was born and raised in Kohima. Nagaland to me is special for so many reasons. Firstly, because it is a home to a multitude of tribes, each with its own distinct customs, traditions, and languages. And we Naga people are proud tribesmen known for our, very vibrant traditional costumes, captivating folk songs and dances, and of course, our unique and delicious cuisines. And we are also the land of festivals. So we do love sharing our rich cultural heritage to the world. One of the aspects that for me especially makes Nagaland a very unique place, in my opinion, is the rapid transition our people have made. Over the past century and a half, Nagaland has undergone a tremendous transformation. Our people were colonized both in terms of governance and also in our belief system. And this has led to a significant cultural shift as we were uprooted and deracinated from our traditional ways and have been thrusted into the modern world. Today, Nagaland is the most Baptist state in the world, which I guess is a testament to the profound changes that our society has gone through. And that is what I am mostly fascinated by, and that is what my films are mostly about. But similar to many indigenous tribes around the world, I think there is a sense of rediscovery that appears to be growing, especially among the younger generation. And despite the rapid transitions that we've gone through, I think there appears to be a movement towards a cultural renaissance. It feels like, people are collectively on a journey to sort of reconnect with our cultural heritage, to find the lost meanings and values that once defined us. And so a lot of my films are based around those issues. And for a storyteller like me, I think it's an incredibly exciting time because there's so much to explore and uncover, so many stories waiting to be told. And our journey of self-discovery and cultural revival, I feel, is just beginning. And there's a vast amount of learning and research that's yet to be done. But I think the enthusiasm is palpable. And so I think coming from an indigenous background and coming from a region that has been hugely underrepresented by the media, um, my ambitions in making film is anchored in a sort of, I guess, more collectively and culturally anchored. Um, and so jumping right into my work, I would request Shweta to please share your screen and then have my presentation on.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. So I have been making films for the past decade now. I made my first film around 2014. I've been incredibly lucky to have figured out what I wanted to do, I think, at a very young age. And ever since I can remember, I've always been the storyteller of my family. I'd often gather my cousins and make them sit around me and tell them stories, which were mostly jokes or horror stories. But I was always fascinated and intrigued by the reactions when I would tell my stories. But interestingly enough, the first thing I ever wrote down it wasn't a story or a screenplay. It was actually a rap song. And I was just around 9 years old, I think. And I was completely obsessed with hip hop. And at the time, I thought I was going to become the next big rapper. And there was something about, I guess, the lyrical freedom and the storytelling aspect of rap that really made me fall in love with the form. And I started writing at a very young age. I was writing a lot of lyrics, just pouring out whatever was coming to my mind at that point. But as time went on, my focus sort of shifted from writing rap lyrics to writing stories. And then eventually I transitioned into writing screenplays. And at first, I didn't really think about becoming a director. And to be honest, I was born and raised in Kohima, and there's no film industry in Nagaland. So I really had no idea what the role of a director was or what a director does. So my main passion was writing, and I was happy with that. But the more I wrote, the more I grew as a writer as well. I think the more possessive I became about the material I was writing down. And I had a lot of vivid images and ideas in my head. And I didn't want someone else to translate my vision to the screen. And that's when I made the jump on deciding to wear the director's hat as well. And but again, when I first started writing screenplays, I found myself, I guess, mimicking Western cinema. I was just trying to replicate the movies that I was exposed to. And as a young teenager, it was mostly, I guess, American or British films I was being influenced by. And it wasn't until 2015, one of my early screenplays got selected in Italy, and I was invited to go there and make my film. And this was my first time stepping into a professional set, and it was a real eye opener for me. And that's when I truly discovered the world of foreign cinema, and I never looked back after that. After being exposed to the incredible quality of films that were made globally, so it sort of I realized that there was a world outside of Hollywood, outside of English films, and that really really changed my perspective, I guess. And after that initial trip, I spent a lot of time in Italy, visiting quite frequently. I was traveling quite sporadically to Italy around 2015 and 19, working on various films, making my own films, and also being a part of other people's films. And but it wasn't until 2019 I wrote and directed a film called Ang. It wasn't until I made Ang that I felt I had found my true voice as a filmmaker. I wrote the screenplay of Ang when I was 22, and it was the first time I rooted a story deeply into the Naga culture. And I think instantly, the project sort of made sense to me. It resonated with me. It felt like I was finally writing about themes, characters, and stories that I deeply care about. And just to give you a bit of a background on Ang, so Ang is a short film that I wrote that is set in the 1960s, and it follows a Konyak Ang. Ang means chief in Konyak. So it follows an Ang and his son as they remain the last people in the region to convert to Christianity. So we follow their journey as they struggle and persevere to hold on to their age-old traditions against the social pressures of the new world. And the film explores, I guess, intergenerational conflict, a theme that I'm very fascinated by. I'm very fascinated by intergenerational conflicts, especially, I guess, because growing up in Nagaland, and like I said, the very rapid transition that we've gone through, I think it has really the themes feel quite inherent to me. And I really like to explore those conflicts and the clash between the old and the new. And I made Ang, and one of the reasons I continued towards this path of filmmaking was also because of the success that Ang brought me. I was very fortunate that Ang was very successful in the film festival circuit. Ang had its world premiere at the Clermont-Ferrand International Short Film Festival in France, which is the biggest short film festival in the world. And it even won the Special Mention Jury Award there before going on to screen at many major film festivals like Palm Springs, Melbourne International Film Festival, and it has since played over 50 other film festivals worldwide. And so I think the validation that the film received also embedded this confidence in me as a filmmaker to further pursue my roots and my identity. And so I made Ang in 2020, in 2019, and in 2020, of course, COVID happened. And during the lockdown, I felt like I felt the need for a change of environment. So that was when I applied to the National Film and Television School in the UK. Film schools were something I've always been skeptical about. I never liked the idea about a film school. And so it was strange that I applied to a film school, but I knew that the NFTS had a reputation for producing master filmmakers like, Lynn Ramsey, Roger Deakins, Rose Glass, Joachim Trier, etc., etc. And it's also known for being extremely hard to get in. So I just applied for the sake of it, and I was very surprised when I got in. I applied with Ang, and I guess it further validated my confidence in my own voice and my identity, because I applied with it, and then when I got in the film school, the people in the film school actually told me that because of how unique my background is and how unique the voice as a filmmaker and as a storyteller that stands behind Ang is, they thought they wanted to give me a chance. So they gave me that opportunity. And so as I got in, my time in the UK was extremely transformative for me. I learned so much, not just as a filmmaker, but also a lot about myself. And it further just, I guess, deepened my desire to make films about where I come from. And so while still living in the UK, I was making, trips back home during my holidays. And about a year ago, while during one of my visits back to Nagaland, I made a short film called Ade on a Sunday. And it's a film that is set in Kohima. It's basically a love letter to the world I knew growing up in Kohima. And it's a nostalgic look at life, growing up in Kohima. And we shot it on 16 millimeter film. And it's such a small film, but again, further validation for me. It has been it has been very successful at the film festival circuit. And it premiered at the International Film Festival of Rotterdam, which was a festival I've always dreamt of being a part of. And it's screened across Europe and North America, and it's still on its festival journey. And so I am just gonna take you through some of the slideshows. These are some of the films. These are some of my early work, and when I said I was trying to mimic a lot of films that I was being exposed to at the time, I guess these are the evidences of it. I have my first short film at the top there. It's black and white. It's a psychological thriller called Dissociate. The next one is a short film that I shot in Italy. It's an Italian film. We shot it in a very beautiful vineyard in Sicily, and it's called Silenius. And I also was going through a dark comedy phase at one point, which I'm still I quite like the concept of the film, the concept of Checkpost, which is the film you see down here, the three images towards the bottom. And it's, yeah, but I feel like I'm a different filmmaker. But these are basically my early work. And Shweta, can you move on to the next one, please?
Just allow me a moment.
Right.
Just give me a moment, okay?
Right.
Automatically, it's not being changed. So manually, I'm changing the slide and sharing again. Okay.
Okay.
Another slide is of Ang. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you have the poster of Ang and some of the behind the scenes of me just being on set and being the director. As you can see there, these are the laurels that Ang has received from several film festivals, Palm Springs and Clermont-Ferrand. Ang has an all Naga cast, and it was shot entirely in Nagaland. And we had to do a lot of research as well in the process, and we built an entire village for the film. And moving over to the next slide, please.
Just Lome Moon. Yeah.
Right.
Another one is Ade, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's fine.
Right. Over there on the left. Okay. Those are some of the images from Ang. Um, so we, of course, the actor did not have real tattoos on his face, which we wish he did, but a lot of them are at a very old age now, so it's hard to cast someone who has real tattoos and make them perform. But the actors did a wonderful job. All of them were non-actors. So we had to work with them for a couple of months before we sort of made the film. But they were very cooperative and very talented as well. On the right side, you have the poster for Ade, which is the film I shot a year ago in Kohima. And then moving over to the next slide, please.
Yeah, sure. Another slide will be Remains BTS.
Yes, right. Right, before I move over to Remains, these are some of the stills from Ade on a Sunday. It follows these two 8-year-olds in Kohima as they sort of run away from Sunday school to swim. And then as the day progresses, they end up brushing shoulders with the adult world for the first time. It's a coming of age film that is very close to my heart because it's almost like I mentioned, it's a love letter to the world I knew growing up and to the characters I knew growing up. So segueing to Remains, which is also the clip you will all be watching. So the films I made in Nagaland were getting a lot of success out there in the film festival circuit and critical success as well. But I was always determined to prove that I can make successful films abroad, while staying true to my artistic self and identity, I guess. And so in my final year of film school, I decided to make a film that was a bit of both, something that took place beyond the borders of the UK, but also something that was close to the world and to the identity that I come from. And so I made a film called Remains, which is a post-colonial horror film. And this project actually allowed me to explore new genres and themes while being able to being able to remain authentic to my voice, I guess. And the full film is around 20 minutes long, but I think we have a 10-minute segment that I hope really captures the essence of what I was trying to make. The film is a UK film, and so it's fundamentally a British film, but I think you would definitely see that it's rooted to Nagaland as well. You'll definitely see traces of where I come from and the indigenous representation of the filmmaker. So, Shweta, you can go ahead and screen the film, and I will see you guys. Should I log off then currently?
Yes. I hope
Right.
the screen is visible.
Okay.
Right.
It is to me.
All right. I'm starting to play.
Okay, thank you. Enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next lot, a symbol of pride and power from the Naga Hills of India. The head of a chieftain's wife. Do I see 750? 750? 800? Do I see 850? 850. Going once. Going twice. Sold to the Chapman House.
Abraham!
Yes, sir.
Wilfred Godson. Delighted to have you here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Godson.
Welcome to the home of Oscar Chapman.
This is incredible.
It is indeed. Mr. Chapman, the young man from the West Indies is finally here. Mr. Chapman? You all right, Mr. Chapman? I will just move Mr. Chapman to his room.
Everything is all right?
Oh, yes, no, he has these moments from time to time, that's all. Nothing to shake a stick at. That's the servant spell there, and everything you need to know about your duties should be on there.
Thank you again, Mr. Godson.
It looks, splendid on you. Good luck to you, Abraham.
Grandma, I hope everyone is well. I reach and find work in a rich man's house. He is very sick, so I have a lot of work to do. I'm all alone in this big old house. But I'm working hard and will soon be able to send you money. I go and make ackee and saltfish tonight because I miss the taste of home. I go and cook it like you. Hello? 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 Mr. Chapman? I'm so sorry, Mr. Chapman.
Yeah. So that was all from the film's Remains. And I would like to ask Teja to come on board so that we can start the Q&A session. Um,
Right.
we all were really hooked, Teja, while watching this, and we want to watch the whole film. 10 minutes is just a wait for us.
Right. Thanks for that.
Really visual, it was a visual treat for all of us.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about how what is your process of visualizing, how you move on from script to visuals?
Mm, I guess I'm the kind of director who likes to pre-plan his shots a lot. I'm terrible at drawing, so I don't necessarily do storyboards, but I have a very vivid image in my head always. And so one of the most interesting part for me when it comes to working on a set is placing the camera, and I enjoy it as much as I enjoy working with an actor. So a lot of it is pre-visualized, and I have a very good cinematographer that I normally work with. His name is Ham, and he's from Thailand. And so I think when we collaborate, we're very precise and also concise in the way that we like to cover scenes. I'm not a very big fan of covering shots, having so much coverage. It actually always boggles my head in the edit room. And the fact that we shot it on 35mm film also, I think, forces us to be more disciplined with our shot planning, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. And so here we have Ekron. Ekron, if you can ask your question directly to Teja. We received your question, but it would be great if you can ask him directly.
I think the question was, what was your favorite director of film? I don't actually really remember it.
What is my favorite director and what's my favorite film, right?
Yep.
Well, it's always hard when someone asks you this and you're put on the spotlight, but I think the director that has had the most impact in my style of filmmaking, especially recently, has to be Abbas Kiarostami. I know it's quite different from Remains, and Remains is a film that's very genre leaning, but Abbas Kiarostami, and with the Coker trilogy, Where's the Friend's House, especially A Day on a Sunday, my other short film, is hugely inspired by Kiarostami's works. So I think Abbas Kiarostami is probably my favorite director.
Yeah, we have another question from Anuradha from
Mhm.
Pogri Koraput. Why and what instigated you to make this film Remains?
I think, like I mentioned, I wanted to make a film that was compelling, beyond the borders of India, while staying deeply connected to my identity. So, the theme that naturally linked these two elements together was colonialism, but I was cautious because, colonial themes have been explored many times before. And so after a, a rigorous brainstorming process, I landed upon the concept of repatriation. And I've always been captivated by how how the issues are in many ways a lingering consequence of colonialism. So this theme, I guess, allowed me to address colonialism in a much more nuanced and understated way. And that's how, I guess, the idea of Remains was born.
Yeah, thank you for your answer. I hope Anuradha received her answer. We have one question from YouTube, from MCJCK. We have one question from YouTube from live streaming.
Mhm.
Without a proper theater or cinema hall in Nagaland, what is your feeling that the general citizen of Nagaland will be able to enjoy such films coming from their own land?
Um, can you repeat the question again, Shweta, please?
Yeah. The question is, without a proper theater or cinema hall in Nagaland, what is your feeling that the general citizen of Nagaland will be able to enjoy such movies coming from their own land?
Right. So I'm aware that the FAN, which is Film Association of Nagaland, if I'm not, I don't think they do it every year, but every alternate year they host a film festival, and they welcome as many Naga filmmakers or even filmmakers from around the Northeast to come in and screen their films and have their Q&As. So I guess for people who stay in Nagaland, that would be, I think that would be the easiest way to access these films. And I hope filmmakers from Nagaland who are also successful outside of Nagaland are willing to bring their films to the festivals and try and inspire the audiences who are really invested and interested in cinema back home.
moving on to another question. Here's one question from Anupam Purti. Your film A Day has mostly locals with no acting background. Is it easy to work with non-actors?
Yes, for me, I'd much prefer working with non-actors. Also, all my films that have taken place in India are all with non-actors. I think it's a cliche to say that non-actors are, natural and organic, but to a certain extent, I strongly believe that's true as well. And I think good acting is hard to come by, and so people who are, at least this is my opinion, a lot of actors also, for me, they appear to carry a lot of bad habits in acting, or what their perception of acting is. And for a non-actor, especially, people who haven't been exposed to a lot of cinema, I like that their cups are empty in a way. And again, when you cast a non-actor, you're casting someone who is, whether it's to do with appearance, whether it's to do with their background and identity, you're casting someone who closely resembles the character you have in mind. And so most of the time you have people who are actually playing themselves. And so there's not a lot of directing to do. You just have to, I guess, pick your moments and learn to navigate them on set. But besides that, I feel like most of them are very, very natural. And so, yeah, I always enjoy working with non-actors.
Yeah, I hope Anupam's question is answered. So we received one question in Google form
Mhm.
through the registration. So this question is from Gulal Salil.
Mhm.
That has stood out and is anti-imperial, global consciousness relevant at all, or participation in it by any connecting threads for youth in the community, considering Nagaland's own history as a colonized people?
Mhm. I think I lost you there a bit, Shweta. Can you repeat again? Sorry.
Okay, I'm repeating it again. Is there anything in your observation of tribal aspirations that has stood out and is anti-imperial global consciousness relevant at all, or participation in it by any connecting threads for youths in the community, considering Nagaland's own history as a colonized people?
Mhm. Um, Again, Shweta, I'm
All
sorry,
right.
but
Okay.
the,
Yeah.
the, the beginning.
I'll ask Lal if you're still here. We would request
I'm sorry
you,
about that.
yeah, to ask question directly.
Yes, I'll do that. The question actually was a little longer, that and I can understand why Shweta is also reading out only a part of it, because it is a kind of a long thing. I just wanted to sort of ask, because from the introduction about you in your when the poster came out for your session, it was that you are someone who's also interested in and working on tribal youths' aspirations, and trying to sort of showcase that those are some relevant, that sort of makes a theme for your films. And my question sort of connected to that is that there is a clear, like, anti-imperial and a decolonizing sort of decolonial consciousness that is we can see more and more among young
Mhm.
people, and I am a part of that sort of group.
Mhm.
Um, so kind of what I would really wanted to ask you was that, is there anything in your observation of tribal aspirations and among youth that has stood out, and it is anti-imperial, in its and it's sort of connected to this global consciousness, in particularly in Nagaland, in Kohima, considering with the backdrop that Nagaland's own history is that of a colonized people.
Mhm. Right. Okay. I think there are various examples I can give you. Staying close to the film, to my film Remains, though, I know that similar to so many similar to what a lot of countries are doing now. There is a very, I think, vibrant movement that's happening in Nagaland regarding the repatriation process, especially the one that is dealing with the Pitts River Museum in Oxford. There's a very, ever since the lockdown, I think right before the lockdown, the movement started growing, and it was after COVID, and once the museum started opening, the museum has actually taken down the human remains that they've showcased in their shelves for a very long time. So it was because of the movement, these, I guess, finally, these people ultimately sort of realized that this was something that was unethical. And now the Pitts River Museum, along with some other museums, which I can't remember their names, but some of them are beginning to repatriate some of the antiques, and especially the human remains are making its way back to the country, and hopefully they make it back to their native village or to their native tribes and families. So yeah, that's the example that I can think of right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Moving on to next question that we have from Anuradha. I just wanted your insight on, do you feel that your picture themes, how far they are relevant and contextual to the present Naga identity and Naga situation?
I think it's kind of hard to say because these things are very subjective, and I as a filmmaker only speak for myself, and it would be, I think, arrogant to say that I speak for a community. But at the same time, I think, like I said, there is a movement towards cultural renaissance, and without having to take a dig at anyone, I would say that, rediscovery of our culture and our identity is quite prevalent and relevant in the society. And so I'm just reading the question again. Do you feel that I would like to think so. I'd like to think that, my films, although when I make my films, I do not intend to be topical. My first priority as a filmmaker is to create intriguing and compelling stories. But at the same time, I hope it sort of resonates with people who also care about the same things that I do.
Yeah. Thank you, Teja, for answering all the questions that came in. I wanted to ask you one question. How do you find the representation of the tribal communities in Indian film industry in comparison to the world cinema?
Right. I think if you look hard enough, there is filmmakers representing their communities well. It's just not out there in the mainstream. And I think with time, there is also, people are slowly beginning to embrace diverse voices as well. So hopefully, there are more filmmakers who are able to represent themselves and voice their own opinions and tell their own stories. So, but currently I feel like, at least in the mainstream, that is still something that is lacking. But I'm quite optimistic about it, and the way, how diverse voices and minority voices are being represented and being embraced worldwide, I hope is a domino effect, and it'll slowly trickle down into our industry as well.
Yeah, understood. Another question is coming from a community steeped in old traditions. Filmmaking is a relatively new medium for the Nagas. How did you navigate this transition and preserve your unique voice? This question is from Renchumi Peton.
Right. I think there's despite a lot of problems with oral traditions, I think there is a beauty to it as well. And that is subjectivity and the space and license you're given as a storyteller to either add or, you know, to be creative with the stories. I think for me, I had to, you know, I had the privilege to have traveled to a lot of places and, you know, had the privilege to make films outside of India, a bunch of films outside of India. And so it wasn't until I sort of explored further that I found myself more rooted to myself and my identity as a filmmaker, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, I think the answer is just the more exposure I got, the more I felt rooted, and that eventually sort of forced me to, you know, take a cultural U-turn back to my roots. And again, it's just a lot of trial and error with making films, and I made a lot of mistakes as a filmmaker, but it was actually Ang that really gave me the courage and the validation to pursue the stories that I continue to tell now.
Yeah, thank you, Teja, for wonderfully explaining us. So moving on, we have an announcement to make on this World Photography Day. We have our upcoming session at 9:30 p.m. today with Vara Vargas Lara. She's from Bolivia, and she will be sharing her talk on topic Indigenous Imaginations, Indigenous Identities. Vara Vargas Lara is photographer from Bolivia. So do join in at 9:30 p.m. today. Yeah. So, Teja, thank you for your presentation and thank you for sharing your film. We all had wonderful time hearing you and about your experience and your filmmaking journey. And we all wish you all the best in this cinematic journey of yours and voicing out all the hidden oral tradition folklores that you are trying to amplify. I really liked remains in terms of how we usually have interpretation of storytelling of our tribe to directly I'll say that again, like see, you brought the colonization issue very subtly in remains that your tribe has faced. So
All right.
that take of yours, I really appreciated. Like when there's any issue of any tribe, we mostly hammer directly the issue when we do go for storytelling. But you very subtly, in a global voice, try to bring out the issue that you have faced or your community has faced. That was really amazing.
Right. Yeah, thank you. That was something that was very important to me. The film is largely very, very quiet as well, with almost no dialogue. You know, we wanted to keep the old man muted, almost as, I guess, symbolically representing the sort of how the mute, how we don't talk about that anymore. You know, how everything has been sort of swept under the rug. And so, in a way, I guess that's trying to mirror the silence we've endured in the process, I guess.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And do stay connected with us on our upcoming sessions today at 9:30. And more information on events and sessions of Tribal Design Forum is up on our website. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.